What up, everybody, and welcome to Baz on Blades. My name is Baz, and I talk about blades. Guys, we're going to do a short, hopefully short, follow-up video to the Ganzo Firebird FH11 review. What we're going to do is we're going to do a guts and glory disassembly and a look at the inside of this new knife that I am calling the Game Changer from Ganzo Firebird. And there's one thing that I don't like about this knife. Everything, all the hardware on it is double-sided, and you can take a look here. The pivot hardware did have some white thread lock compound on it. I have disassembled this knife already, and it's a bear to get that pivot broken loose. The pivot is T8, but the sockets are shallow on it. Now it seems hard. I didn't have any issues there as far as stripping out the hardware or anything, but the sockets on the pivot are fairly shallow. And let's see if we can get these broken loose here. Alright, then the small stuff is T6, guys. Now, I did a comparison in my video with the Best Tech Paladin, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you go back to on my channel and you do a search, you will find that I did a disassembly. Well, I did a disassembly of the Best Tech Paladin. And these knives are, the construction technique is, if not exactly the same, it's very, very similar is what it is. Alright. Alright. So, what we've got here is some well done, well fitted, not any play, sort of nested liners, nested in the G10 here. Very well machined, guys. Now they are stamped. You know, you're not going to get wire EDM or water jet cutting or, you know, whatever higher end machining practices at this price, but they are very cleanly stamped, very cleanly finished. They are either the material was previously polished or they have been polished, vibro polished and tumbled, whatever. And then you can see the bearings here. They are stainless bearings in a white polymer race. Your inset, and it's sort of a press fit up here, stop pin. And there's through screw holes for your pocket clip. So they are screwing directly into that steel liner. This other side here, you do have a couple of standoffs. Again, they screw from both sides, so I just left one side screwed in, guys. Again, a very clean finish here on this liner. Very simple, guys. And then you've got a G10. You've got a G10 backspacer here. And this is incredibly awkward trying to do this in front of the camera. And that's your little lanyard pin right there. And it is not press fit. It is just set down in that recess there. And then your blade. You know, everything seems done pretty well. I noticed that they did, when they ground the lock face, they got it a little hot there. That's sort of straw colored, so not super hot. I'm not worried about that. And it's cleanly done, guys, cleanly done. And you can see I've got a little oil in that. Let's go ahead and grab us another rag out here. We might as well get some Earl out, a little bit of Earl for this thing. And we will wipe this stuff off and we'll just start fresh. And I want to talk about something while I'm reassembling this knife. Now it did come, it was a little dirty in the pivot. This is the second time I've disassembled this knife. It was a little dirty, a little gritty, guys. and I pulled it out and I just wiped off everything on the inside, wiped the bearings off, and that's all I had to do. I put a drop of oil on it just to lubricate the bearings, and you know what, they seem to be pretty well done, guys. I mean, they are free rolling in that race there. So it's really, the knife is very, very smooth, very free rolling. All right, we'll put that back up. Oh, good Lord. We'll put that back on there, and we will put a drop of oil on it. Now, I got a message at bazonblades@gmail, which is the, you know, what I use for Bazon Blades, and this was from a viewer. His name is Kurt, and Kurt has access to some testing equipment. And what Kurt did was he took his Ganzo Firebird FH11 into the lab, and he did some metallurgical testing on it, on testing equipment. Now, we've had an issue already with Ganzo naysayers who just cannot forgive Ganzo for doing copy or homage knives, and they're always going to hate Ganzo no matter if this company goes off in the new direction or not, which they seem to be doing, and that is much approved here at Bazon Blades, because this company has a potential to bring very good, very well made original designs to the market, and I like seeing that. But Kurt took his FH11 into the lab and basically destroyed the naysayers who are saying, well, this can't be real D2 steel, and if it is, then the heat treat and temper is going to be terrible. And he ran a couple of tests. He did what is called a PMI test, which is a positive material identification test, and that basically tests the composition of a metal, of a steel. And the results that he got back, he did send me the PDF file of the test results, and I have gone through that, and from what he says, it tested straight up D2. In fact, he said it tested straight up D2 closer than any other D2 he had ever tested. So I think there is very little doubt that it is actually D2. And really there shouldn't be, because D2 is not a fancy new steel that only world superpowers have access to. D2 is a decades old World War II era tool steel. Every modern manufacturing country in the world creates their own D2 on a large amount or large level. So it is not out of the realm of possibility that China, who is an industrial leader, we're not talking about a third world country, guys. We're talking about a country that makes most of everything that's in your house right now. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they have good D2 steel. Now, besides the PMI test, Kurt also did a hardness test. And again, the naysayers are not going to like this, and this is the most awkward way to get this knife together. Doing this around a camera, guys, and I took it apart the wrong way too. But he also did a hardness test, and what he came up with on the hardness test was a Rockwell of 62.1. Now that is right there where D2 needs to be, guys. 62.1. That's what we're looking for. 60 to 62. All right. Okay, not too shabby right there, guys. That's going to go right back together. Now, I am not going to put any new thread lock on this because it uses that sort of pasty thread lock and it stays in the threads. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to get this pivot started back. Let's get it started back, get a little bit of tension on it, and then we're going to go in here. I'm going to have to get some more drivers, guys. I love this little Weehaw Tools driver, but I need to get some better secondary drivers. Alright, you know, actually the T6 screws on this knife are pretty doggone decent, guys. It's the second time I've disassembled this knife and I've had no issues at all getting it back together. No issues with the small screws on it. The sockets on them, the sockets on the T6 screws are deep. They're tightly machined. Whatever the process is that they machine those sockets in, I don't know. I'm not a machinist. But I've had zero issues with the T6. Like I said, the T8 on the pivot, I wish the sockets were deeper on it. As far as the quality of the socket, the tightness of the socket, it seems fine. They're just not very deep at all, guys. And that's the hardware that you're going to put the most force on. You know, it's the bigger hardware, and it's the bigger bolt, and it's alright, now see this, since this is a two-sider, we're going to have to do a little tuning on it here. Let's see what we can get going. I need to tighten it up just a little more. Guys, this knife, I mean, it's not even tightened all the way. You can see it went straight back to center. Everything went together well. I got some oil there. You saw the interior of this knife. There is nothing in there to make you think this knife is super cheap. And it's, you know, it's super cheap as far as price goes. I mean, $22, $25 shipped for what you're getting out of this knife is pretty doggone good, guys. I gotta tell you. It's pretty doggone good. Yeah, I'm not a fan of two-sided pivots on any knife, guys. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't care if it's a high-end American-made knife. I don't care if it's a custom knife. I don't like two-sided pivots. And I don't like them in this knife any more than I don't like them in anything else. That's just the way it is. And I shouldn't be doing this with the blade open, but I'm going to hit it with the blade open and closed and see what we get out of it. I'm just taking the little last bit of slack out of that. And see, when you've got a pivot like that, you've got to go in and sort of set the tension on both sides of the pivot. And people will say, well, yeah, it's more adjustable that way. But, you know, I've found that most pivots, single side or single screw side pivots, you don't need the adjustment out of them. All right. Well, guys, that is, we've got all the play out of it. The lock's good on it. The action is fabulous. We'll give a little chance for that oil to get spread around. And don't have it back to perfect centering, but I'm going to have to work on that pivot a little bit and go at each side individually to adjust the tension on the pivot and get the centering back in. But the first time I disassembled it, I didn't have any issue on that. So it's just real awkward to do it here in front of the camera, reaching around the tripod. So what we got going here, guys, you've seen the inside of the Ganzo Firebird FH11. We've talked a little bit about our subscriber and friend of the channel, Kurt, who sent the results to me for the PMI and Rockwell testing. And I mean, he sent a photo of the knife in the Rockwell test machine showing the readout. It was 62.1. He sent me the file on the PMI testing, and from what I understand on the testing, it tested perfectly as D2 with a very good test result. So I have no doubt at all that it is solidly D2 with a very good heat treat and perfect Rockwell setting on it at 62. That's really where you want to see D2. So I expect excellent edge retention and wear resistance out of this knife. And for those of you who hate Ganzo, you just blindly hate Ganzo and do not want to give the company any chance, I'm going to tell you about something. I was having a discussion with another knife reviewer who I have a lot of respect for, and I like the guy, and he has taken a personal stance that he will not review Ganzo products because of their business practices. And I wholly support him in that. But I made a point to him, and I'm going to make it to you guys, that the world is not as simple as we like to think it is. And I'm going to use one knife as an example, and that is the Buck 110. The Buck 110 folder was a game changer when it came out decades ago. And immediately, every manufacturer out there, including respected modern manufacturers, immediately started copying that knife. Kershaw did, Schrade did, Puma did, Boker did. Everybody that made a knife copied the Buck 110. Yet there was no, nobody went crazy insane talking about theft. And there's been a change in the world. And you know what? I don't support theft of any type. I don't, guys. And I'm not going to support it on my channel. Ganzo wants to release a knife that's a copy of something else. It's not going to get reviewed on my channel. I decided a long time ago that if they wanted to go forward doing original designs, that's what they needed to do. I would support them in that and review the knives, but I would no longer review their copy or homage knives. And I'm going to stick with that, because this company has shown that they can do a quality original design at a price point that is acceptable and accessible by anybody. But there are a group of people that just will not ever forgive Ganzo, and that's, that's their business. I'm not here to tell people how to think or how to feel. I'm just here to give you my point of view and to review knives. And my point of view is, companies do things to make money that maybe they shouldn't do. American companies do it. European companies do it. Asian companies do it. If we use that wholly as a standard all the time, totally black and white situation to judge companies, I can tell you right now, you would not do business with any major company on the face of this planet. It does not matter what country they are in. There are American companies that the things they have done would cause you to never buy an American product. Yet people buy American products. So the way you feel about this is the way you feel, and that's fine with me. But I'm going to tell you right now, guys, Ganzo, the way to get this company to stop doing copies, homage, clone knives is to support their original designs, be very vocal about your support of them, and the fact that you will not support their copy knives. As a community, we could forcefully change this company in that way. And this knife is a great indicator of what they are capable of doing, guys. I just showed you the inside of it. It is made just like everybody else's budget G10 folders with inset liners, bearing pivots, liner locks. You get the D2 steel. Excellent fit and finish on this knife. Again, from the review, the only issue that I found with the knife was an uneven edge grind. And you know what? I've bought $300 or $400 knives from very reputable companies that had uneven edge grinds. So not a huge deal there. Otherwise, for $25 shipped, you just saw it, guys. I've got the test results from Kurt. It is D2 steel. It is 62.1 Rockwell. And this knife is a game changer in my opinion. All right, guys. Take it how you will. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch one of my videos. God bless all of you, and we will talk to you again.